The legendary Arena Mexico buzzed with anticipation as banners for AEW, CMLL, and NJPW hung side by side. Fans from around the world filled the seats, their excitement a living, breathing force. The lights dimmed, and a thunderous roar shook the building. Tonight, 10 of wrestling's best would collide in a dream match. The Death Riders, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, stormed through the crowd, joined by the polarizing Young Bucks. Their presence was electric, a volatile mix of brawling and high-flying artistry. Across the ring, the Dream Team emerged. The stoic Katsuyori Shibata, the menacing Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland, and the electrifying Will Ospreay. The crowd erupted for Ospreay, their chants echoing through the arena. Both teams stared each other down, tension thick enough to cut. The referee tried to maintain order, but chaos was inevitable. Ospreay and Moxley exchanged icy glares. Joe and Claudio looked ready to explode. Swerve and Matthew Jackson traded arrogant smirks. 10 world-class athletes, one ring, and a powder keg ready to blow. The bell hadn't even rung, but this already felt like a main event for the ages. The energy was palpable. Everyone knew something unforgettable was about to happen. Arena Mexico was set for war. Before the bell, chaos erupted. Moxley charged Ospreay, fists flying. The other 8 joined in, turning the ring into a battlefield. Hobbs and Claudio clashed like titans. Swerve and Nick Jackson traded rapid strikes. Samoa Joe battered Yuta in the corner, while Shibata and Matthew Jackson exchanged brutal kicks. The fight spilled outside. Moxley grabbed a chair, but Ospreay cut him off with a flying forearm. Officials struggled to restore order, finally forcing the teams to their corners. The bell rang at last. Samoa Joe versus Claudio Castagnoli to start. The crowd buzzed as the heavyweights locked up, neither man giving an inch. Joe muscled Claudio into the corner, unleashing thunderous chops. Claudio fired back with vicious European uppercuts. Each strike drew gasps from the crowd. The tone was set. This would be a war of attrition. The opening exchange was stiff, physical, and relentless. The crowd hung on every blow, knowing this was just the beginning. The war had officially begun, with Joe and Claudio leading the charge. What an opening salvo. Samoa Joe dominated early, tossing Claudio with a belly-to-belly suplex. Joe tagged in Powerhouse Hobbs, who flattened Claudio with a spinebuster. The crowd gasped at the impact. Hobbs was a wrecking ball. Swerve Strickland entered, targeting Claudio's midsection with sharp kicks. Swerve and Hobbs hit a slick double team, keeping Claudio isolated. Claudio, desperate, landed a sudden uppercut on Swerve and dove for his corner. He tagged in Jon Moxley, who exploded into the ring, clotheslining Swerve and knocking Hobbs off the apron. Moxley hit a paradigm shift on Swerve. Joe barely broke up the pin. The match broke down again as Yuta and Shibata traded forearms. The Young Bucks double super-kicked Hobbs to the outside. The early control was gone. Moxley's chaos had shifted the momentum. The ring became a whirlwind of bodies and action. The crowd was on fire, sensing a classic in the making. Every man was fighting for survival. The match had become pure, beautiful chaos. Moxley tagged in Wheeler Yuta, and the Blackpool Combat Club worked over Swerve with brutal efficiency. Yuta locked in a crossface, but Swerve clawed to the ropes. The Young Bucks entered, unleashing a flurry of double-team moves on Swerve. Nicholas Jackson soared over the ropes, wiping out Hobbs on the floor. Matthew set up for the Meltzer driver, but Shibata intervened, standing tall against both Bucks. Shibata absorbed their offense, then dropped them with stiff kicks. The crowd roared for Shibata's toughness. He tagged in Will Ospreay, and the arena erupted. Ospreay dazzled with a handspring back elbow and a Spanish fly, but Nicholas broke up the pin. The pace was breathtaking. Ospreay and the Bucks traded moves at lightning speed. Momentum swung wildly with every exchange. The crowd was on its feet, witnessing wrestling at its finest. The match was reaching a fever pitch. The High Flyers took over. Ospreay dodged a double superkick, then hit a Sasuke special, wiping out bodies on the floor. The crowd chanted, "This is awesome!" The Young Bucks answered with synchronized moonsaults to the outside, landing perfectly. Swerve Strickland climbed to the top and hit a spectacular 450 splash onto the pile. Wrestlers lay scattered, the ringside area a battlefield. Swerve stood tall, triumphant. The aerial assault left everyone reeling. The referee began his count, urging the competitors back in. One big move could end it all. The energy in Arena Mexico was electric. Fans were breathless, having witnessed a world-class display of athleticism. What a war. The action converged in the corner for a dangerous Tower of Doom. Hobbs hoisted Yuta, Claudio locked onto Hobbs, and Samoa Joe powered up the whole chain. Moxley climbed above them, ready to add to the chaos. Suddenly, Ospreay drop-kicked Joe's legs, collapsing the entire structure. Bodies crashed to the mat, carnage everywhere. Ospreay stood tall, seizing the moment. He launched himself over the ropes, crashing onto Moxley at ringside. The aerial assassin was taking over. The ring was littered with bodies, the crowd in shock. The referee checked on everyone, concern etched on his face. Ospreay's intervention had changed the match's trajectory. The destruction was monumental. The match teetered on the edge of disaster and brilliance. Unbelievable. The match hit its frantic final stretch. Swerve Strickland hit the house call on Yuta. 1, 2, but Yuta kicked out. The crowd exploded at the resilience. Yuta tagged Claudio, who spun Swerve in the giant swing, then locked in the sharpshooter. Swerve screamed, nearly tapping, but Hobbs broke it up with a clothesline. The Young Bucks superkicked Hobbs. Samoa Joe double lariated the Bucks. Moxley hit Joe with a cutter. The ring filled with chaos, every man for himself. Ospreay hit the Os-cutter on Matthew Jackson, 1, 2, but Nicholas pulled the referee out. The crowd booed the blatant interference. Moxley slid a chair to Matthew as the referee was distracted. The match was breaking down into lawlessness. Madness reigned. With the referee distracted, Matthew Jackson grabbed the chair, but Ospreay ducked and superkicked it away. Ospreay lifted Matthew for the Stormbreaker, but Nicholas distracted him. The Bucks hit Ospreay with a super kick, then the BTE trigger. Matthew covered, 1, 2, but Swerve broke it up with a stomp. The crowd was in chaos. Samoa Joe locked Matthew in the coquina clutch. Claudio broke it up. Hobbs speared Claudio to the outside. Yuta dove onto Hobbs. Moxley and Shibata traded brutal forearms. In the center, Swerve and Ospreay stood tall. Swerve hit Moxley with the house call. Ospreay ducked Matthew's clothesline, hit the hidden blade. Matthew collapsed. Ospreay covered. 1, 2, 3. It was over. Ospreay, Swerve, Shibata, Joe, and Hobbs had won. The bell rang, drowned out by the crowd's eruption. Ospreay, Swerve, Shibata, Joe, and Hobbs stood tall, arms raised in victory. Ospreay and Swerve shared a look of respect. Rivals united in triumph. The defeated team picked themselves up, pride and disappointment mingling. Moxley and Ospreay exchanged a silent promise of future battles. The crowd gave all 10 men a standing ovation, chanting AEW and Lucha Libre. This was more than a match. It was a showcase of wrestling's best. The wrestlers had left everything in the ring, and the fans honored their effort. The image of 10 warriors under Arena Mexico's lights would linger forever. This was a statement. When worlds collide, magic happens. Mamma mia, what a night.